Hello, everyone. Happy Monday and happy holiday season. I apologize for not filming myself in the intro this week like usual. My boyfriend and I have been very sick and we are still recovering. So instead, you'll get the best voiceover I am able to do. Today's video, we'll be making a Snowman Hidey, which, depending on your perspective, it's either scary or cute. I thought it was a little creepy until I made a few adjustments myself. We'll dive right into it after the intro. Stay tuned to see. There are a few basic supplies you'll need, which I have pictured here. For the eyes, you can really use whatever you like. I went the Coraline route. As for the material, I have already cut and measured everything. For the basic structure of the snowman, I used the same outline as I did for my fleece pumpkin. If you'd like to see the specifics of how to measure the walls, check out that video after. I'll link it in the description. As for the hat and the carrot nose, you can really go whatever size you like. I made the carrot nose slightly too large, but I will leave the dimensions in the description. We'll start with the potty pad. Layer by placing both Uhaul circles, followed by fleece with the good sides facing each other. Sew along the edge, leaving yourself about a 2-inch opening in order to flip the material. Using that opening, flip material inside out so both fleece sides face outwards. Stitch the hole closed. For the rest of the snowman, each part will need to be layered the same. Place white and black fleece with the good sides facing each other, followed by the cotton batting. You can pin in place to ensure the material will not slip. Sew along the edge. You will also leave a 2-inch opening here as well. Be sure to flip, making edges crisp, and sew opening shut. Layer the walls as mentioned before, however you will only sew 3 of the walls using the previous method. To clarify the layering, what I mean by the good side of the fleece is that one side is always softer and fluffier, which is what you want on the outside. It's a little hard to tell on solid prints, but if you look at the material from the side, even cut, you can see which side is a bit thicker. But if you do it backwards, it will still work the same way. It may just not look as nice. For the last wall, layer the same. However, now trace a circle large enough for your guinea pig to enter. This will become the door, or more accurately, the mouth of your snowman. Sew along the traced line. Once sewn, cut out the inside of that circle. This next part is a little tricky. Grab one layer of the fleece and tuck it through the opening and pull it tight towards the edges. You should have it layered as fleece, batting, fleece. Sew along the circle once more close to the edge to hold the material together. Now sew along the edge of the wall. If you have batting sticking out afterwards, be sure to trim it off. Now, with your walls still separate, you'll want to sew the Velcro. A 1-inch square is all you need. Sew at the top of each of your walls, which will be the pointed part. I did this part later on my snowman, but it will be much easier to sew it on now. I also messed up this next part. I recommend sewing using the machine, but I had to hand stitch because the project was basically complete. Sew one more 1-inch square on the wall with the opening. Sew it as close to the opening as you can. Now we're going to attach the walls. All four will cover the entire diameter of the circle. Sew with the black sides facing outwards so the outside seam will be nice and clean. Take your time here. This is a little challenging sewing a flat side onto a round one. Line the bottom of the wall so it's rounded as you sew. You may have to adjust it as you sew to get the stitch as round as possible. But be careful because the edges are very thick and can easily break your needle. For that reason, don't sew the corners of the walls. You can either hand stitch closed later or just leave a small hole. It's fine either way. Repeat with all of the walls. We're almost done with the head. All that's left to do is to sew the walls to each other. You still want to sew with the black sides facing outwards. Sew each adjacent wall to each other. Again, the material is thick at the corners, so be careful not to break your needle. Go ahead and repeat with all four sides. Once complete, you can flip your snowman to be inside out using the opening or the mouth. Ignore the Velcro by the mouth. This was before I fixed the placement. For the carrot nose, sew the batting to the fleece, the good side outwards. Next, fold the nose in half and sew along the flat edge. My carrot is honestly too large, so I would recommend about half the size. Once the edge is sewn, flip inside out. Now, sew Velcro onto the smaller circle. Just a quick note here. The Velcro I bought sticks to itself, so I don't have the kind with the smooth side and the sticky side. If you've ever worked with Velcro, you know what I mean. If yours does not stick to itself, be sure to put one of the types on the snowman head we just did and the opposite on everything else so it will stick onto the parts that you need. Last, fill the carrot with the plushy stuffing and hand sew the bottom circle onto it. We're all done with our nose. All that's left is the snowman's hat. Sew the rectangular black piece to the batting of the same size along the entire edge. Now, the material you chose for the trim of the hat, sew it with the bad side up so the seam will tuck underneath. It's a little hard to explain. Then, fold the trim over and sew along the bottom. All of the good sides of the fleece should be facing outwards. Next, sew the smaller black circle to the smaller batting along the edge. This last part is challenging as well. You want to sew the rectangle to the circle. Make sure batting sides are outwards so the seam is nice. Again, it's difficult sewing something flat to something round, but take your time and adjust as needed. The rectangle should be larger than the circle, which is perfectly fine. Once the circle is complete, line up the sides of the rectangle and sew down so it's the width of the circle. Trim any excess material and flip inside out. Next, sew the larger circles together, layering them the good fleece facing each other, followed by batting. Same concept as before, leave an opening, flip, and sew the edge. Once this circle is complete, sew a T-shaped Velcro onto the bottom of the circle. Then, stuff the hat with plushy stuffing and hand-stitched closed. I didn't film sewing on the eyes, but I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, To fix the creepy factor, I pinched the cheeks and hand-stitched them into more of a smile so it's a little less menacing, and I think the small fix made all of the difference. Now, let's see the finished product.